Hey, welcome to Caspio Live. Let me know if you can hear me okay before we begin today's presentation. So if you are able to hear me, just a quick housekeeping item. We can get that out of the way and then we can commence with today's live stream. Hey, King Capo, welcome back. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. All right. Well, we have a green light from King Capo to commence with today's takeoff. Audio's good. Hey, Roberto. Welcome back. All right, so we have a, let me just move this out of the way. So what's the use case for today? Today is not a full application. Okay, normally we build an entire use case. Today we are going to create a small aspect of a fully blown application. And what we're going to cover is a patient-doctor appointment system. Okay, now there could be, maybe that's just the extent of your needs, right? But usually when it comes to patient portals and these types of applications, there's a lot more to it. The whole idea behind, or the premise behind today's system is to allow doctors to set their schedule, what days they're going to be working and what days they're available. Maybe they can have an admin to do the same thing for them on their behalf. And then you have the patients who can go ahead and book those time slots of availability. Also, if either the doctor or the patient cancels the appointment, that time slot becomes available again for somebody else to book. Okay, so that is what we're going to be covering today. And as always, I'm going to give you a quick demo before we build it so that you know exactly what we plan on developing. One thing I will mention when it comes to bridge applications, I don't have a great deal of time to make the aesthetics look really pretty. I could. It's just another level of me having to spend a lot more time to tweak the look and feel. What I give you is the functionality, and then you can take it from there. All right, you're going to be able to make the reports look much better, decide what data you want to display, how you want the data to be displayed for both the doctors and the patients. Okay. So here I am logged in as the doctor, all right? And immediately what I can see is all the booked appointments, okay, for each one of my time slots that I have. Now, can I make this look much better? Yes, I can make it have multiple reports so that it only shows me the ones that are booked, and I can have a completely separate report that shows me the ones that are canceled or the ones that are completed. I've opted out just to create a very simple status drop down so that as a doctor, I can filter out, okay, show me just the ones that are booked. And then you can filter down even by patient. Okay. Then you come over here to the next tab, and here it shows me, all the time slots that I have currently, ones that are booked and ones that are still available for anybody else to book. And as always, when I build this out, I build a very quick MVP. All right, but I was thinking about it this morning, about 30 minutes before the live stream. I could have done this actually a little bit cleaner, where when you create the time slot as the doctor, you could have a start time be, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning. You can have the end time be 5 p.m. and then maybe have a drop down for intervals. Just book him at 30-minute intervals, right? And then I can use the loop in a triggered action to automatically create all these time slots without the doctor having to do it manually one at a time. All right, so maybe what we can do as part 2 is to cover this in the next live stream along with a brand new use case. I can just show you what it looks like. We're not going to build it, but I think it will be a much better experience for the doctor not having to manually input each, time slot one at a time. And then in addition to that, you can have a rules table along with the time slot table where you predefine the rules. Maybe you have it, don't book any time slots for certain holidays. Okay. Or don't book any time slots between 11:30 and 1:30 p.m. because that's when I take my lunch. And then the system knows to look at that criteria and then adjust based on that and not actually book during those times or dates. And again, I always think about these things like 30 minutes before the live stream, which is so interesting. It's like, why I could have done this a lot better. But anyway, we have a good system in place. We can create our time slot dates, start time, end time, and then automatically it's going to be by default available when you add it. So let me actually book one for, let's say, why don't we go for maybe today, the 18th, and then we'll say start time maybe 1 p.m. and then end time can be, I don't know, 2 p.m. And then you'll see as soon as I click add here, it is available by default. So now somebody as a patient can look at that time slot and be able to book that time slot. As the doctor, you can edit or you can delete. Those are all standard. And I'm giving you also another way to add a time slot using a submission form. So you can have a submission form by itself, or you can have an inline insert at the very top of the report to add that new time slot. Both things achieve the same thing. Both accomplish the same thing. All right, so now that we know, just remember 1 p.m. on the 18th. Okay, let's flip over to the patient side. The patient is going to see all of their booked appointments. Okay, you can go ahead and cancel the appointment if you wanted to. And I'll show you how to cancel works in, well, let's do that. Let me see, today's the 18th. So we booked this one on the 24th at 9 a.m. with John Doe, and this is my reason for visit. You can go ahead and cancel. It takes you to this form, and then it's a confirmation. Are you sure you want to cancel this appointment? Of course, you can rename the label in the button to say something else. You can just say confirm. You confirm that, and you no longer see that booked appointment because you just canceled it. However, when you go to your calendar here, now somebody else, oh, this is bi-weekly, so I'm only showing this week. But if we go to, let's say, can I go to next week? Like, I haven't used this in a while. So this is April 12th. Hang on. Do we do it this way? What was the date? I think I have a filter to just show this week. Okay, not the following week. So it's just filtering this week. If I had a filter for current month, then on the next week, it would show me that time slot available again on the calendar. But here's the one that we created today. Okay, for 1 p.m. Oh, it says 1 a.m. I need to see why it's doing that. Okay, we'll fix that. And then we have 8 a.m., 10 a.m. These are all for the same doctor, right? And if I go ahead and now select this appointment slot, reason for visit, just say sprain my ankle. Okay, we'll hit submit. Takes me back to my appointments, and here wait, hold on one second. Oh, it takes me back to the report. I haven't shown you this one yet, but it's just a different way to display the time slots. I wanted to show you both, and both the submission forms redirect me back to this tab over here. It's just another way to display the time slots that are available. Okay, you can see we still have this one on the 24th. That's the one that we created or canceled. Okay, so this report shows me all of the time slots that are available, including the one that was canceled on the 24th. And these are the two remaining ones that we can book as well. So if you go back to the weekly calendar, we still have these two for 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Be a little tricky and confusing. But anyway, when I go to the submission form and I hit submit, it always redirects me back to this tab over here, which is a tabular way to display the available time slots, including the one that was canceled, as you can see. Okay, but I wasn't able to see it here because the calendar is filtering for current week only, not current month. This one filters out current month, and it shows me all the ones that are for this month. Okay, and then as the doctor, we can see, I think I'm confusing myself. Yeah, as the patient, I can see that I booked this appointment for spraining my ankle, and now if we flip back to the doctor, we can go to booked appointments, and we'll be able to see that this one was booked. And if you go back to my schedule, you will be able to see that one was also booked. I think that was for 10. Which one was that for 1? I think it was for 8 a.m. on the 25th. I can't remember which one we actually picked. But it's supposed to change the status here for the time slot as well. Most viable product, MVP. All right, let me know if you have any questions before I go into and show you now how to build all this out. If there are any questions, this idea came from one of the attendees. Can this be cleaned out even more? Absolutely. I won't deny it, but I think this is just the basic way of doing something like that, which still has the trigger actions to show and hide these time slots, change statuses in the other tables based on your selection. This is the easiest, and I do want to say maybe most practical way, but if there's a level to this that I'm not showing, which I understand there could be because I'm not an expert in that workflow or this type of use case, then yeah, it can always be improved. All right. I don't see any questions coming my way, so let's go ahead and continue. Oh, and we're going to be building this application using the Bridge framework. Okay, we've been using Flex for a while, and now we finally have Bridge. We did use Bridge before Flex was introduced into the platform, but now we're going to switch back and revisit the good old Bridge, which I haven't used in a very long time now. I don't build as many applications as I used to. Okay, when I used to build applications quite frequently, I would be using Bridge before Flex was rolled out. But now, because it's so much easier to deploy with Flex and to build out all of my content for the live stream, this is really one of the main reasons why I lean towards using Flex. But in saying that, anything that you see in Flex can be built inside Bridge, except for the overlay window, which requires a little bit of customization in Bridge. All right, so as always, we look at the tables first, right? So let's take a look at our tables. We have the doctor's table that stores all the doctor information. Okay, we have the doctor ID, first name, last name, full name. It's a formula data type that concatenates both the first and last name together. We have the email, we have the password, and I just threw in the specialty field. You don't really need it, but it's up to you. All right, then we have our patients table. And inside the patients table, we have the patient ID, first name, last name, full name, email, and password so they can log in. And then we have our time slots table and our appointments table. Now, remember what I said at the beginning. You could have made this even more fancier and robust by including maybe a rules table. Okay, that when you create the time slot as the doctor, it looks at that rules table and knows how to adjust based on what's inside the rules table. So let's take a look at our time slots table. We have the slot ID, always need a primary key. We have the doctor ID. We need to know which doctor created that time slot. Time slot date, start time, end time, slot status, if it's available, if it's booked, completed, and then you have the date created. Pretty simple, okay? Next, let's go into our appointments table. And inside this table, we have the appointment ID, once again, the primary key. You have your slot ID, which needs to link back to the slots table, okay? Because when you create the appointment, you need to stamp the slot ID so that we know for what slot people are booking the appointment for. You have your doctor ID. Okay, we also want to know for which doctor that appointment was booked for. You have the patient ID. Okay, because we need to know which patient booked the appointment. You have the appointment date. Okay, also very important. You have the start time, end time, and these are all going to be fed from the slots table. We want to include all of this information inside the appointment table as well. And you're going to see how we pass those as parameters from the slots table when we book the appointment. You have the appointment status. Okay, was it booked? Was it completed? Was it canceled? We have the reason for visit. Okay, and then we have the date created. That's really it. That's all the tables that we need for this use case. And then in the authentications, we're going to have our doctor authentication and our patient authentication. And finally, we can move on to data pages. I'm quickly going to build two folders to store our data pages. We have the patient and we have doctors. So interesting going back from Flex to Bridge now. I'm just not used to it. Found myself like thinking a little bit, what do I click on again? If you don't use it, you lose it, as the popular phrase goes. All right, so let's work on the doctor side of things. What we can build first is the ability for them to see their own schedule and be able to input their time slot. Okay. Or maybe we can go with the booked appointments, whichever one is easier. Why don't we go with the booked appointments? So we'll hit create. We'll go with the reports, tabular format, hit next, based off of the appointments table, and then we can call this maybe booked appointments. All right, for my style, I'll go ahead and use maybe the Caspian style, and localization we'll use English, and definitely restrict access to your doctor authentication. Click next. All right, so do we want to filter data? Yeah, why don't we go ahead and filter with the search form, display results on the initial load. And then, of course, you want to apply record level security so that the doctors only see their own appointments. Okay, I'll hit next. What fields do we want to search based on? Maybe by patient name and also the appointment status. Click next. All right, so we have the label for patient name. That's going to be a drop down. It's going to look inside the patient's table, and we want to display the full name, but behind the scenes, it's always going to be the ID. Then you have appointments. Oh, actually, why don't we do both? So that at least we can have any patient. Delete the value. And then again, we're going to look into the patient's table to display the full name. Then we have appointment status. Now for the appointment status, I don't have a lookup table, so we're going to quickly have a drop down because I only list a few options inside the drop down. So for custom values, we can say maybe any status. That'll have a blank value or a null value. And then my status options for the appointment is going to be booked. Oops. Booked. I have to go around this cable. I need to figure out a way to. Let me see if I can put this up here. Perfect. So we have booked, we have canceled, and we have completed. Good enough. Let's hit next. All right, so now what information do we want to display on the results page? So I'm just going to borrow from my live example. I don't have to think too much. So we have appointment date, start time. So we have the appointment date, start time. What else do we have? It was in the wrong one. Appointment date, start time, end time, patient. End time, patient. What else do we have? Reason for visit and appointment status. So we have reason for visit and appointment status. So that's the information we want to display for our booked appointments. And do I have any inline edit? Yes, I do have an inline edit that allows me to change the appointment date. Well, we could change the appointment date. We can also change maybe this. Well, that ties back to the slots table. I don't think we want to change the appointment date. We probably want to just cancel the appointment date. I think would be better. But this, I think we can go ahead and change to book completed. So we should be able to change the appointment status using the inline edit. So let's do that. So we'll do inline edit. Appointment date, don't make that field editable. Okay, so in the editing tab here, you can disable that. Same thing with start time, same thing with end time, patient ID, reason for visit, and then appointment status, you can turn this into a drop down again. And then for appointment status, our options are again booked. What else do we have? Canceled and completed. Okay. Let's hit next. Okay, you could sort based on maybe appointment date to show me the most recent booking first. We'll do Z to A, we'll hit next, and no need for a details page, and we'll click finish. All right, let me see if I have anything else here. I don't have anything else created under booked appointments. Well, that's all we want to display. Now, if I hit preview, let me see if I have in my table, if I am, probably need to, okay, so John Doe, I kept the data. All right, so let's go ahead and log in as John Doe at test.com. Oops. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm using doctor's authentication. So let's preview again. John Doe at doctor.com. Password was test. All right. So same thing as what we were looking at just now. I did keep the sample data from my other application when I copied it over. So that's why you see sample data in here, and we can see all the ones that are canceled, and the inline edit should allow me to, change from canceled to booked or completed depending on how we want to view the data inside the application. Okay, so that's booked appointments. We don't need to do anything else here. Let's go ahead and now create our second data page, which is to view my schedule. So create a data page. Once again, we're going to use the report tabular format. Click next based off of the time slots table. And let's call this maybe my schedule. We're going to use the Caspian style, localization English, restrict access. Click next. And I'm not using a filter. Let me see if I am actually using under my schedule. I'm not. Oh, yeah, I'm searching based on status. Okay, so we're going to include a status filter for the time slots or my schedule. So let's have display record level security based on doc ID. Okay, and then we were searching based on slot status. Okay, and then we're going to turn this to be a drop down. Both. Say any status. And my options are available, book, and canceled. Okay, so again, you don't have to build it out this way. This is just how I did it. You don't even need the search form. You can have multiple data pages with different reports, and you could use just the filter option to filter, what you want to see in that report without you having a drop down. Okay. All right, now what information are we displaying? So let's see, under my schedule, we have slot date, start time, end time, and slot status. So we have slot date, start time, end time, slot status. And then you also want the doctor ID. I'll explain why in just a second, because I'm using inline insert. We need to stamp the doctor's ID as you insert something into the report. We don't see it here. You see there's no doctor ID. It's going to be a hidden field, but when you click add, it's going to stamp the doctor's ID as you add this data into your report. Okay, we want inline insert. Click next. All right, so the slot date is displayed in the editing. Do I have inline edit? Let me see, what am I editing? So I have the ability to edit everything here except for the slot status. Okay. So we have a text field for that, start time, same thing, end time, slot status. So now for the slot status, what you want to do is make this field hidden and use the default value of available. So every time you create that slot, it's automatically available for the patient to book. And then for the doctor ID, we make this field hidden, and we're going to use the auth field doctor ID. So that's what I was trying to show you. You can hide that column, okay? But each time you do an inline insert, it's going to stamp the doctor's ID in the slot table. So this way you don't have to create a submission form, which everybody hopefully knows that on the submission form you can hide and use the auth field of the person that's logged in. But you can also do the same thing using inline insert to save yourself a data page. All right, let's see. I think I also had inline delete. Did I not? Let's see. Yeah, I'm using inline delete as well. So let's do it exactly how we created it. So we'll use inline insert or inline edit and inline delete. And I just want to verify and make sure this is working. Yep. No details, click finish. Okay, so now when I hit preview, okay, these are the available, well, not available, but, yeah. So do you recall that when you click add here, it makes it available by default, right? The time slot. But I want to be able to see as well, which time slot has been booked and which time slot is still available. I don't see that at the moment. So there's something you can do about that. Let's click edit. Let's head over to the results page. You see how the time slot field, the slot status field, I made it hidden, so it's not visible in the report. Okay, but by default, we are assigning an available status to it. What you could do is you can also add an HTML block like that. Let's call this slot status. And then all you got to do is just insert the slot status field as a parameter, and that's all you have to do. Click finish. And now when you preview, you also see it. Okay? Inside the HTML block. But the main functionality of it is hidden, so when you click add, it knows what to do. This is just displayed read only in an HTML block. Okay, because it's helpful to see which time slot has been booked and which one is still available. You could also, well, this is interesting. Why is this repeating? Let me see. I don't know why this is repeating. Both. Oh, is it because, because I'm using the, I cannot use both here under custom values. I just need to use custom values like that, not both. Because custom values contains any status as well. So that's my mistake for choosing both instead of just custom values. Let's click finish, preview, and we're back to normal. Now you could also filter here, right? So if I just want to show, even though you may not be displaying the status here, you can say show me just the ones that are booked, and it will filter those out for you. Okay, or if you just show any status, it shows everything. All right. I don't think we need to build a submission form. Yeah, I think everyone knows that you can build a submission form as well to do the same thing. I think having just an inline insert at the top is sufficient enough. So what we're going to do is create a quick navigation menu right above our data pages. I chose not to embed into a website because I know that I can build a quick navigation menu and use that in the header of my data page. So if we go to the search form and we insert the header and footer in the footer section, I can add some HTML to create a navigation menu. Now I did this offline, but let me just copy and paste this here. Give me a second. And we're not going to use the third navigation menu item, so we'll remove that one. So we only have two. We have booked appointments, and we have my schedule. And this is just a simple Ahref, okay, with some styling to create that effect of a navigation menu across the top. Okay, we have the background color, which is blue, display flex, so it's responsive. And then you have, I'm going to replace these hyperlinks with the data pages that we just created. So I'll just add a pound sign, but I know to come back here. Okay, and then you have on mouse over and out. So when you hover over the navigation tab, it gives you a different background color. And when you hover over or mouse out, when you remove your mouse cursor from the navigation tab, it reverts back to the original color. Okay, so this is super simple. You can even ask ChatGPT to create something like this. Okay, not complicated. Please don't get overwhelmed by what you see here. It's really not that challenging. You can just, using a natural language or a prompt in ChatGPT, hey, can you build me like a patient style or a healthcare style navigation menu with 2 tabs? And I want, when I hover over to have a darker blue color, but the main background should be lighter blue. And then I want my font to be white. That's it. That's all you got to do is tell that to ChatGPT. It'll give you exactly what you need to copy and paste in here. All right, so let's hit finish here really quickly. I'll show you what this looks like in just a second. Let me just grab my direct URL link to my booked appointments page. I will edit once again. Normally, I would save this in my notepad, but we only have 2 links to work with. So booked appointments, where's my pound sign? There it is. Okay, so we'll paste that. And then we'll grab the deploy link for my scheduled time slots. We'll go back to booked appointments. And we'll replace or swap out the pound here for booked or my schedule. And then you're going to copy the whole thing and paste it inside the My Schedule data page. So by going to the search form, we add a header and footer, and in the header section, disable the HTML editor and paste it like that. That's it. And now when you click finish and deploy, let's see what happens. So I will hit deploy, grab the URL, copy that link. Let me close out a few of these. We'll keep the original one. Close this preview out, and then let's log in. Oh, I'm already logged in, sorry. You can see how it created that navigation menu for me in the data page directly. It's just something that you can do if you don't have a website. Bridge requires some place to embed these data pages, okay? It's a prerequisite, it's a requirement. All right, but if you don't want to do that, you can also create this navigation menu above your data pages and just reuse them in other data pages so that everything links back and forth. If I go to my schedule, you can see it retains or preserves that navigation menu because we have it in both places, in both data pages. Okay. All right, so now we can go ahead and filter out, based on available, booked, or canceled. We have our 2 data pages for the doctors. We know which ones are available. If I create another one, let's say, what do we have so far? We have, what is today's date? Sorry, I'm just trying to get the date. 18th. Let me just think for a second, because I haven't built the triggers yet. Just want to make sure that I don't mess up the workflow, because I have to build my triggers. If I cancel this one, I don't want that to be visible. Why don't we build the patient side as well right now? And then we'll test everything out. So I'm going to come over here, create a data page. And we can probably begin with maybe my appointments so that the patients can see all of their booked appointments. So let's go to reports, tabular, and I will grab what we see from the live version. All right, so we have appointment date. What time is it? 10:33. Okay. We have the date, start time, doctor ID. So let's build it out. Appointments. My appointments. Style. Caspian. Localization English. Restrict access to patient authentication. Click next. And are we searching? No, we're not. I think we are just filtering based on the booked appointment status. So we are filtering. We want to see just our own appointments. And then we are filtering based on the appointment status, but we want that to equal to booked. So it only shows us the ones that are booked. We'll click next. All right, so in the results, we want to display the appointment date and start time. Appointment date, start time. Doctor ID and reason for visit. So we have the doctor's name, reason for visit. What else? And appointment status. Okay, click next. And we're going to create this cancel hyperlink as well. But before I do that, let's click next and let's add another HTML block. We'll move this at the very bottom, and then we just have to create that ability to cancel. So for now, what I will just do is write it out, cancel, highlight the text, click on that, and I'll just have google.com because I have to build a data page first, and then I'll come back and replace it. Next. Next. and disable the details page and click finish. All right, so let's deploy this one. Copy the link, and I will put it right next to our doctor side. So we'll paste that here and log in as Susan Lee at patient.com. All right, so these are the ones that Susan Lee has booked for a headache and need to do an MRI of my lower back, which is something that I submitted as sample data yesterday. But we do have this cancel link, right? Which I cannot cancel this booked appointment just yet because it's taking me to google.com. So we have to build out the data page to do that. So let's build that data page. Reports. And what are we doing here? So we are updating an existing appointment. So we need to create a submission form, update form. And based off of the appointments table. So let's call this cancel appointment. Style Caspian, localization English, restrict access based on patient's authentication. Click next. And then we want to be able to find this record through a unique ID. And I'm just going to call my parameter name AID, which stands for appointment ID. You will see when we click on that cancel link on the report, we're going to be passing the appointment ID to this form. Okay, but we have to name the parameter first. Okay, and the most easiest way to remember is to abbreviate the parameter names. That's how I do it, at least. But you can write it out fully if you want. But for me, it makes sense if it's appointment ID, I would just call it AID. I know that it's going to stand for appointment ID. And let's see. I'm trying to think here. I think the only thing that we need. Let me look at my live example. If I hit cancel, was this my live example? All right, give me a second. Yeah, this was my life. I hit cancel. I think it's just, yeah, we don't show anything. Are you sure you want to cancel this appointment? So we need appointment status, if my memory serves me well. And then we want to hide that field and default value canceled. All right, so it's a hidden field. That's the only field we want to show in that submission form. But when you hit submit, it's going to change the status of the appointment to canceled. Okay. And normally, if I had built that data page, I guess we can redirect back to the My Appointments once you cancel it. Yeah, that works. That works. For now, let's just have display message. I'm going to click finish here. But I do want to grab the My Appointments URL like that. And then when I cancel my appointment, I want to redirect back here to my appointments. So let's go back to the submission form. And then the destination will be go to a new page, this one here. Okay. So it has a nice little workflow. Okay. When you look at your appointments and you wish to cancel, it opens up that form. And then it redirects you back here. Now, we're not done yet. Now we need to connect these two data pages. Okay, remember that link for cancel that's going to google.com? It needs to go to this URL, to this data page. So I already have it. Well, actually, I need to deploy it and grab the URL of my cancel data page and go over here to my appointments. Hit next a few times. Head over to the HTML block. And now we need to pass some information. So what we're going to do is you can click on the source if you want. It's up to you. You can just replace this google.com link with the cancel form and then question mark to initiate the string to pass the parameter. And then what do we call it? AID. That was the name of our parameter. Equal sign. And then you insert the appointment ID like that. And that's it. That's all you have to do. All we need is to pass the appointment ID to the form. Okay. And now it knows what appointment it's going to cancel based on that appointment ID. And you click finish. Okay. Now at this point, you could take a look at this. So here we are, refresh. You will see when you hit cancel. Oh, I need to include an HTML block to display that text. Are you sure you want to cancel this appointment? So let's go to our submission form. One thing I forgot to add. Right over here, HTML block, and just say, are you sure you want to cancel this appointment? And now you could pass other information, okay? For example, are you sure you want to cancel the following appointment? Colon. And underneath that, you have the doctor's name, the appointment time, the date, and then there's a button underneath that says confirm. Okay. So you could do that, but I'm doing the simple approach here. It's up to you how you want to change the layout and what information is presented. Let's try that again. Let me go back. Okay. Are you sure you want to cancel this appointment? You will likely change the label to something else, yes, or confirm. And then when you do that, this appointment will be canceled. But we're not going to do that just yet until we have the triggers created. Okay, let's continue building. We have my appointments. We have cancel appointment. We need, what else do we need? We need now to look at the availability based on the time slots table so that we know what to book. We have the ability now to cancel our existing appointments, but we now need the ability to book an appointment. So let's create a data page, reports. Let's go with, let's go with why don't we go with the calendar? Right. I want to show you the calendar because I think it looks nicer. So what we're now going to do in today's live build, where is my book appointments? I really should have used a completely different style. So Caspian and blue are very similar. Let's go back. Right, so we're going to just build this report, the weekly calendar. And that's all we're going to build. Okay? I know I have the tabular report as well, but it's the same thing. Okay, so let's not give ourselves more work. I think you're just going to use one or the other. For the live demo, I wanted to show you today that you can build it using a tabular report to display the slots, or you can use a calendar, which I do think that this looks nicer. So let's do that. And let's do a monthly calendar instead of weekly. So we'll do a monthly calendar based off of the time slots, the ones that are available. Let's call this book appointment calendar so that we know. We'll do Caspian, English, restrict access to patients. Next. And let's go ahead and just do current month, right? So we'll filter. I guess how would in the real world, if I'm the patient, maybe current year or something like that. We can do it for the current year. Maybe I can go to the next month and see what's available in the next month and the next month. Maybe just for the current year. That's how we'll do the filtering. Okay, we don't need to do any kind of record level security here. We just need to be able to see all the doctors and all the available time slots. Click next. Slot status. That's the filter. We want that to equal to available. So only show me the ones that are available for booking. So that's important because once we change the slot status to booked, we no longer want that to be visible. That's why we filter based on just available. All right, and now this gets a little tricky here. What I'm going to do is include at least one field for now. And then what we'll do here is we'll insert an HTML block, and inside that HTML block is we're going to create, let me just copy it. I have it here on the side so we don't have to redo the work. Let me disable the HTML editor and paste this here. Now, all this does, you can see it's just all wrapped inside an ahref tag. It's just to create a link, but we are going to dress up that link to make it look like a button. All right. And then I'm going to replace this here in just a moment. Let me just remove this and make this a pound. Okay. Because I need to grab a different URL. And what we're passing is the slot ID. Okay. We're going to pass doctor ID, the date, start time, end time, and that's it. That's the information that we're going to pass to the booking form. because on that booking form, we need to also stamp this information into the appointments table. The booking form is going to be based on the appointments table. Okay, but we want to pass all this information that already exists in the slots table, time slot table, to the appointment table. Right? So we want to be able to pass the slot ID and stamp it into the appointment table. We want to pass the doctor ID and stamp that into the appointment table, and all this other information. And all this does here in between is dress up our button. So again, we have a green color on hover or on mouse out, and also on mouse over to change the color based on the effect when we hover over the button itself. Display inline block, padding around our label inside the button, background color of the button, color of the text, and a few other decoration items. Like for example, here we have the border radius of 25 pixels, which gives us that button a nice round edge. And then font weight is a little bit thicker, 600. And this is the transition background, so it has a nice little fade. When you move the mouse away from the button, it slowly fades into the original color. And then finally, what do you want to display inside your button? Well, I want to display the start time of the appointment, or that time slot, and the doctor's name. Okay. Hopefully not too confusing. Again, I will provide all of this if anybody wants it at the end of today's live stream. I always give everything out. I will email you the file. All you need to do is import this into your account, and then you will have all of this code available to you. And now that we have this button created, we don't need to display the time slot. I just needed to move one field so I can move on to the next screen. I can now go ahead and remove that. Let's click next. All right, so what did I say? I did actually forget to do one thing. Let me come back here, because it's not just the slot status, it's also the, what did we say? Slot date. Yeah, for the date as well, I want to be able to see current year. So show me everything for this year that I can book of all the available time slots. Okay, I want to make sure I remember that. Calendar view is monthly. Field date, date field is slot date. No need for a details page. We'll click finish. All right, and there is my calendar. So let's go ahead and deploy that. We'll grab the URL. And then we'll connect them all in just a moment, but let me see. Okay, so there's my monthly calendar, and I can see these time slots. You can see ease out, how that slowly fades back to the original color. So these are the available time slots. Now what we need to do is go ahead, and when you click on it, it needs to take me to the booking form to provide the reason for visit so that we can book these time slots that are available. But let me make sure that so we need to build the booking form. Sorry, it's always a little tricky to build this live because there's so much going on. You know, it's a lot of connecting. And I'm trying to be as smooth as possible with showing you how to build it. You know, but it's a lot of kind of going back and forth a little bit. So we have our submission form based off of the appointments table. So this is going to be the booking form, or you can call it appointment booking form based off of the Caspian style. Restrict access. All right, and then the information that we want on that submission form, which is so interesting, because when you look at the live example and you try to book it, all we see is the reason for visit. But look how many fields we have here on this appointment table. Okay. But reason for visit and the information that you see up here is all passed when we click on that button to book it. Okay. So what do we want to display? Just reason for visit. That's it. Just kidding. There needs to be more fields. We need slot ID. We need doctor ID. We need patient ID. We need appointment date. start time, and end time. All of this information needs to be on the submission form. I made a mistake. And then also appointment status needs to be on the submission form as well. Because when you book it, we need to have a hidden field to say that the appointment was booked. All right, so reason for visit is going to be a text area. Slot ID is going to be a hidden field. And we're going to receive that using external parameter SID. We called it SID for slot ID. Doctor ID is also going to be a hidden field. Receive external parameter DID. Okay. Patient ID, we're already logged in as the patient. We just simply hide that field and use the auth field patient ID. Appointment date, this is a tricky one. I think I just used the letter D for that, for date. So we hide it. I think my memory is still serving me well. Okay, so that's going to be just D. Let's verify. Let's double check. If you're ever unsure on what the parameter names were, you can always open up data page in a new tab. And let's go to book appointment calendar. And let's go to our HTML block. This one here. Yeah, so the slot date, I just called it lowercase d. Doctor ID is DID. Start time is ST. End time is ET. So start time, hidden field. ST. And end time, hidden field. ET. Okay, and then appointment status is a hidden field and default value book. So when you submit the form, you're officially booking that appointment. The only thing that's visible on this form, which is somewhat insane, is just reason for visit. And that's probably going to be a required field anyway. Okay, but all of these other fields are hidden. And there's a total of 7 fields. We click next, and I'll come back to this in just a moment. Let's hit finish. Okay, the first thing that I want to do is grab the URL to the booking form and go back to my calendar. And replace this pound with the link to the submission form. So when you click on that button, or this button here, you go to that submission form and you pass all this information to the submission form. This is the information available from the slots table. We just want to stamp that information into the appointment table as well. And finally, let's get the link to the calendar. When you submit the booking form, I want to redirect to the calendar. Okay. Or you can, when you actually, maybe even better, when you book the appointment, you go back to your My Appointments, which I think makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, so let's get the link to My Appointments. Come back here, go to our destination, and redirect to My Appointments. That's even better. So that you can actually see what you booked, not go back to the available time slots that you can select from. And I think that is all that I wanted to build. I was going to build a report as well, but because I'm not going to do that today, we don't need it. I think we're going to leave it at 4 data pages. But now we're going to connect them all using the navigation. So let me go to my notepad here, grab my navigation menu, and then we're going to look at, let's start with My Appointments. Let's go to the results page and add a header and footer. And in the header, we're going to paste that over here. And I showed 3, but we're going to use just 2. So we no longer have the report. So we're going to remove the report. And then we have My Appointments. We're going to keep that one. And Book Appointment. Monthly calendar. All right, and then we're going to replace both of these links with the ones that we just created. Okay, so let's save and finish My Appointments. So I will just grab My Appointments link now, URL. Go back to My Appointments. Let's go back to our header. And where you see My Appointments, we're just going to paste that link. And then we need our available calendar. So we're going to grab that URL link as well. Go back to my appointments. In the header section, paste it here. Again, if you're embedding this into a web page, you don't need to worry about this. Okay, if you already have a website, you can just easily embed this into your own existing web pages without creating a navigation menu like I'm doing. All right, which I should have done was grab that whole code now that I pasted the link. And we need to reuse this now inside our calendar as well. The submission forms, we don't need that. We won't need that in the submission form. Am I using a search form? No, just filtering. Okay. So let's add a header and footer. And in the header section, paste it, finish it, done. Now we can go ahead and deploy. Let's start with my appointments. And we can officially close. Let me close all of these tabs. We'll keep this one open. That's the I don't know why I left this one open here. Let me cancel out of it. All right, so we have our newly created navigation menu. So this shows you my appointments, and this is going to show you available time slots that you can book. Okay, let me close this and let's open up the doctor URL as well. So let's start with booked appointments. Grab the URL so we can see them side by side. Okay, the doctor's on the left. Okay, so what the doctors have the ability to do is see their booked appointments. Okay, and we can add new time slots on our schedule. So for somebody else to book. So why don't we do that? Why don't we go ahead and say, okay, Thursday, I have an appointment. I'm available at, let's just say, I don't know, 10 again. Until 11. That is March 26th. We'll hit add. As the patient, we now get to see that on the 26th. Okay, so John Doe is available at 10 a.m. on the 26th of March. And now when I click on that button, it takes me to the submission form where I can input my reason for visit and hit submit. However, before I submit, I do want to show you the triggers, right? Because we need to be able to now hide this button because we're going to be changing the status in the slots table as booked. And we know that we're filtering this calendar based on available. So it no longer shows this button after we book it. So let's go back to our tables. And let's start with the booking on the patient side. Let's do that. So the action is going to happen on the appointments table. So we come over here, triggered actions. Oh, it copied the triggers as well. Don't worry, we're going to delete those and build them from scratch. Okay. So create a trigger on the appointments table. And what we're doing is submitting data, right? Because it's a submission form. So it's based on insert. Okay, so you're inserting something into your appointments table. Just remember that, that's the event. Okay, run action on insert data event. You look at again, what you're doing is you're submitting a form. And then what we're doing is we want to update. So when you submit that form, we want to update the time slot from available to booked. Okay, so I will open up the table as well, just so that you can see exactly what I'm trying to do here. When you submit the appointment, it's going to be automatically, it's going to say booked, right? Because we have a hidden field on that form to change the appointment status to booked. Once it's booked, for that time slot, we are going to change it from available to booked. That's what the trigger is going to do. So here's March 26th, the one that we added just now. It's still available. You can see it's showing up available here on the 26th. But once it's booked, the trigger is going to help us change the status, update the slots table, set the slot status to booked. Okay. But it needs to know what row in that slot status table to update. So that's why we need to create a join. We create a join with the inserted table. So this is the table that the data is being inserted into, the appointments table. Okay, and we're going to join the data from the appointment, the slot ID from the appointments table, which is the inserted table, with the slot ID with the time slots table. That's how it knows what time slot to update based on the appointment. Okay? This is the only way the system will know. When you map that out correctly, where the appointment slot ID equals to time slot table slot ID, now I know to flip the available status to book for that particular appointment and that particular time slot. Okay? Where appointment status equals to booked. Hopefully I'm explaining this clearly. Okay, we know that when we submit that form, there's a hidden field for appointment status to equal to booked. Well, that's why appointment status equals to booked, update the slot status to booked. Okay, so it should work now. Let's test this out. So let's call this, I always struggle with naming my triggers. Update slot status to booked. Save and enable. All right, just for fun, let's go and see how it works. We have both of them opened up side by side, so you can see it's still available. We're gonna go ahead and book this one. Reason for visit. Someone, I don't know. Someone hit me and I hurt my shoulder. Boy, it's so hard for me to come up with stuff on the fly, but when I'm not doing the live demo, I can think of stuff instantly. All right, we'll hit submit. It takes me back to my appointments. Okay, so here's my booked appointment. But if I go back to the calendar, you no longer see it visible. It's no longer available because why? Well, in the time slot table, you will now see how that's officially booked. That's what the trigger allowed us to do. I could. I mean, as a side hustle, no, I can't do that. That would be a conflict of interest. But yeah. But, you know, if anyone is watching this and they're in that industry, they can easily create this. If you just follow my video, or if you request this app from me, I will email it to you. You can import this into your account and you can see exactly how it was built. And just a little bit of tweaking to have it work exactly how you want goes a long way. All right, now we need to flip it, reverse, right? If I cancel the appointment, now that the appointment has been booked, booked appointments. There it is. I can see on the 26th at 10 a.m., Susan Lee, that's the patient, coming in for this particular reason. Appointment status booked. What happens if I now cancel the appointment? Okay, if I cancel the appointment, we want to flip the time slot back to being available so somebody else can book that time slot. Okay, so let's come back here, create another trigger. Can anybody tell me if this is going to be based on insert, update, or delete? Anybody know what the answer is? Okay, any takers? If not, that's okay. I'm going to answer it for you really quickly. So it's update so that we don't lose time. Let me just check. Oh, we're 5 minutes over. Okay, I just need like 2 more minutes and we're done. Yeah, it's update. Good. Because now you're updating an existing status. You're not creating a new one. You're updating. Okay, and both the doctors and the patients should be able to cancel. Did I create that? If I go back to my appointments, yeah, we have the ability to now cancel this appointment as the patient. Okay, perfect. And then we're gonna verify all of it. Yeah, it takes me here. Okay, good. So let's build a trigger out. Okay, update data on the appointments table because you're canceling the appointment. But at the same time, when you make the update, you want to update the time slots table. And you want to set the time slot status to be available again. Once again, make sure you create your join so that it knows which one is updating. So based with the inserted table, you do the slot ID with the slot ID from the time slots table. Pretty standard stuff. Okay. I'm sorry, that this is incorrect. You're updating the appointments table, where the appointment status equals to canceled. Okay, so when the appointment status equals to canceled, you map out the ID, the slot ID with the slot ID, and then you simply say the time slot status. Sorry. Hang on a second. Did I not map these out correctly? Wait. Oh. Update the time slot table. Hang on a second. No, this is right. This is right. Update the time slot table where the time slot status equals to available. Okay, that's good. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little confused here. Where the appointment status equals to, there's appointment stat equals to cancel. Canceled. And now let's make sure this is correct. We have the slot ID from the appointments table and the slot ID from the time slots table. There we go. It's so interesting. Like when I do these live, I feel a little pressure to get this down right, because if you don't, it could disrupt the flow of the presentation. It makes it look like I don't know what I'm doing. But when I'm not presenting live, I can do this without even thinking about it. It's so interesting. Run action on update data, because now you're updating from booked to canceled, and you want to update the time slot table, set the slot status to available, join the two tables, where the appointment status now equals to canceled. There we go. Save. And let's call this update slot status when canceled. Save and enable. All right. Cross your fingers. It should work. All right, so here I am. Let's see. We are now here as the... It will work both for the doctors and also for the patients. So let me refresh. And let's go ahead and cancel that one for the 26th. So we'll hit cancel. Update. Okay, you no longer see it because it's now canceled and we're only displaying the ones that are booked. When we come back here, that time slot is once again available for somebody else to select because it was either canceled by the patient or it could be canceled by... Let me refresh this one. Where's the one for the 26th? Yeah, you can see how it was canceled. This is what the doctor sees. But I could have also updated it here as the doctor. I could have canceled that appointment. It would have had the same effect because this was also built on the appointments table. All right. And that's really it for today's application. If you want to see improvements on this application, I'm happy to do it. But this is what I came up with based on like the easiest, most basic way of going around this appointment type system where you can display time slots without having to use script or any back-end custom logic to make it work. I think even a bigger improvement is to create those intervals. When the doctor sets the time slots, you don't have to manually input one at a time. You simply say, I'm available from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. today. And in the dropdown, you can have intervals like 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And then the system knows to just automatically create those slots with you just making one submission rather than multiple submissions for that particular day. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. I know it was a little messy here in certain areas, especially when I had to create these navigation menus for myself to go back and forth. But remember that if you have a website, you don't have to worry about creating a navigation menu. You just embed these data pages into your own site. And then when the patient logs in, all they see are my appointments that have been booked. You can also have this be a calendar too. It doesn't have to be a tabular report. And then book appointment So if I want to book a new appointment, I can just select a new appointment. Okay, simple as that. All right, again, I know that it's always these live streams get a little messy here and there, but I tried my best to give you exactly what you wanted for today's live stream. So if anybody wants this exact application, happy to email it to you. Here's my email once again. Okay, this took me about an hour to create offline, just to give you an idea, an estimate how long it takes to build something like that. 1 hour, more or less. But to be fully transparent with you, I use ChatGPT to create those navigation menus. I mean, I could do it myself. Obviously, you know, who wants to sit there and code that out? You know, I just used good old natural language to create that navigation menu. Didn't even tell her, I want you to fix this code with this code. No. Just different iterations, but you give it instructions of what you want and copy paste. Voila, you're done. All right, thank you everyone. King Capo, Era Lee, Didier, whoever's still here, Roberto. Shoot me an email, whoever wants this, and I will email it to you. All right, and hope you have the great rest of the week, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. There's no topic yet set for next week. It'll depend on if anybody wants to see an improvement to this application, which I'm happy to do a part 2, just to iron out some of the details. If anybody wants to see some additional changes to it, happy to do it. Okay, thanks, King Capo. It is what you need to start with. Okay, wonderful. Great. All right, have a good rest of the week, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining the live stream. I appreciate that. All right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.